Hey, real quick before we dive in. If you're a woman in midlife who's tired of the cliches and ready to live out loud, we're glad you're here.
Because you are definitely in the right place. We're not here to age gracefully. We're here to age boldly. So if you love real talk, big laughs, and the occasional spicy truth bomb, make sure to follow us on TikTok at Spicy Midlife Women for even more unfiltered midlife magic.
Because let's be honest, midlife isn't a crisis. It's an awakening.
Our episode 3 is talking about and sharing ways to redefine being a midlife woman.
Yeah.
Because I think this is something that we probably need to talk about a little bit more. What exactly does that look like? Are we all going through a midlife crisis?
I think that we all do.
Yeah.
Really, we do.
It's not like buying a sports car and...
No.
Okay.
We're breaking down silently inside.
Yes.
And that it's kind of like a crisis. I think. And maybe I'm just saying that because that's what happened to me. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's the same for all women. But being able to talk about some of this as far as redefinition. If I had podcasts to listen to when I was 40, can I just tell you what?
Oh, I know. There was nothing really to listen to back then that I can think of.
There was Sally, Jesse, Raphael, and Geraldo. And Oprah.
Oh, yeah. Oprah would have probably been okay, but it wasn't talking about women's topics.
No, I mean, sometimes every once in a while, Ricky Lake maybe.
Oh, geez. Now you're really pushing it.
Right. Phil Donahue.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So we're talking about embracing, one of these concepts is embracing the power of no and the liberation of really saying yes.
Right.
When you choose to. So what's that called? That's called, setting clear boundaries.
Stopping the people pleasing, right? I mean, so many of us women do that.
I certainly can take a little note from this podcast episode because I have a tendency to do that a little bit. Not as much as some people that I know, but I think that having clear boundaries sometimes surprises people. And even just kind of guiding my own children and telling them it's okay to have boundaries. It's not, you're not being cruel. You're not being mean. You're just really putting yourself first in a situation where you don't necessarily feel like you have a voice. So,
well, yeah, and it's really honoring the things that can drain you. So like extreme, and it's protecting what feeds you.
Yep.
So I think it's super important. And like I said, I just have started this in the last probably 4 years of my life.
And before you were just like going with the flow.
Go with the flow, trying to keep everybody happy.
Yeah. I've definitely done a lot more of this as I've gotten older.
Yes.
And we'll get into this a little bit more later, but clear boundaries, redefining where you are in your midlife and, how that is going to look. One of the things that probably would be very important is to really identify what your boundaries are because you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in a place where you feel comfortable with the people you're around, the decisions that you're making, the places you're going, the company that you keep, frankly. So it's okay to have those boundaries. It means honoring, like you said, what does drain you and suck the life out of you.
And protecting what feeds you.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
So another area was, we've talked about this in the episode we had a little bit last week, but we were talking about reclaiming your sensuality. And I think sometimes it's not even reclaiming, it's
discovering and not apologizing for it, right? Turn up the volume on it.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. And turn it up bright and let it shine.
And as women, I think we have not necessarily been given that grace to do that in a lot of ways. It's more, that and I'm totally talking in stereotypes here a little bit, but, it's kind of an expectation with men that they are, turning theirs up. And it's like, but we really have not talked about it because it's not, quote, ladylike. It's not something that, a classy woman would do or what have you. There's definitely ways to go about discussing these things and sharing your thoughts and being powerful in your voice without being a bitch.
Yeah.
So there's, so we want to talk about a lot of those things because sensuality, really, when you think about it, is not really for the young. It's for those that want to be alive and really understanding what sensuality is and what it does to you as a person is really important. And I don't know that's necessarily something you think about when you're in your 20s and 30s in the same way.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
Yeah.
Definitely different. in that age frame.
Yeah.
I do think. And the sensuality can be a lot of different things, whether you're doing things alone or if you do have a partner. And it's the things that bring you joy or that you want to do. It can be wearing red lipstick if that's what you want to wear, slow dancing in your kitchen by yourself or with somebody. You know, it doesn't really matter. Whatever, with the broom, whatever is making you feel joy inside is going to help to ignite that spark of sensuality in other areas.
When we say sensuality, we don't necessarily mean that we're talking about sex.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's really important that people understand that, because sensuality and how you are, your essence of a woman, you know, being a woman and your essence as that woman is different than the woman who's next to you.
Yeah.
And how she carries herself and how she exudes that, you know, sensuality.
Yeah.
And as her person. So the other thing we're talking here about is we have been in this hustle lifestyle for the whole time we are young, when we're going through careers, we're going through school, we're, you know, making a living, you know.
Rise and grind.
Yeah, rise and grind. And it is time to maybe start thinking about how all of those efforts and everything have been put in place, whether we liked it or not, but how we can kind of start flowing into that.
Right.
You know,
and how it's bringing other things together, right? It's almost like aligning everything as you move on through years. Right? And the way that I think midlife invites a softer power in a way.
No, you're not having to prove yourself.
Right.
Yeah. Or feel like you're proving yourself.
I guess flow over force might be a way to look at it, because, you know, like the hustle is very forceful and it's, you know, you're doing the damn thing. But then, you know, flowing, that looks and feels very differently.
Yeah. Well, I think of hustle, which I have that total quality of just, I love to hustle.
Yeah.
I'm focused on a lot of things, but that's kind of a workaholic tendency, I think, in a lot of ways, because you're hustling, you're kind of going after the next thing. It's the type of work I'm into that's like that. But I think what we have learned over time, you know, or at least I can speak for myself and maybe all of you out there, is that you really are not having to prove anything. You know, and you already are enough in the way that you present yourself. You know, you may want to get better at certain things or enhance certain things, or be able to step back and enjoy the effort and all that hard work that you put into getting where you're at. And it's okay, you know, to do that. So
love that.
Yeah.
I think another thing too for midlife women and things that you can do to redefine is the concept of beauty and it being about depth.
Yeah.
And not about youth, right? And what do you think about when I say that?
Well, I think that our society, the way it is, really puts us in a place where we constantly are feeling like we have to do things differently. We have to try to look younger. We have to try to be younger. We have to try to embrace all of those things in that way. And I think it's fine to some degree if you want to do that. I think everybody needs to do whatever makes them comfortable. But the depth that I think you're referring to, at least from my perspective, is that all the experiences and things that we have gathered, you know, and have layered up through our life are really what bring us that depth. Because you have experiences to deal with, you know, to share. You have experiences, you know, to share with people that are in a different place, that are younger, for example.
I think it's all too, for me, when I'm listening to what you're saying, it's making me think about laugh lines.
Yeah.
For example, laugh lines, the silver hair, I'll call it silver, not gray.
Yeah.
The silver hair and the softness. I mean, you know, lifting weights, all this is great, but you know, I got a softer body, so I'll use that terminology, right? The softness of a lived in body. It's all very beautiful. And I feel like they're all part of pages of this book, if you will, which is all of you, myself, I should say, my whole self. All of those things make up part of who I am. And it's almost like the laugh lines have a story behind them. Silver hair has a story behind it. My body has a story behind it. There's so much to tell. And with that, being able to fully indulge, you know, yourself in what that means, I think it's very beautiful.
Yeah. And it's like when you think about beauty, it's not that you're erasing time, but that you're embodying it.
Yeah.
Like you said, you know, our bodies have, I call them battle scars, you know, we've both had 4 children. We've had cesareans. We've had all kinds of things that, have put scars on our body, whatever. And it's like, it is what it is. Do I like to have decent, nice shoulders? Yeah. Do I need to?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's okay.
We're not, again, I know it's just like, we're not saying just let it all go, sister.
Yeah. But I think when people are lifing, they lose themselves. And so that's where, when you're talking about, quote, let it all go. It's like, I doubt when women are told that they would feel really good about their bodies in the first place. And then they're being told that and criticized in that way. When in reality, it's like they maybe haven't been taking care of themselves. And that's why they don't feel good about their bodies or whatever. So it's not like everybody has to be a size 2 and, have perfect skin. Lord knows that we've had those conversations before, but it's really about, about embracing your own beauty and embracing the body that you're in and figuring out how you choose to live in it.
And owning your story. Let's just talk about that, right? Yeah. I think that's another thing when it comes to being at midlife and making, taking a deep dive into where you're at and what you're doing, where you've been, what is that like?
Yep.
And being okay with all of it, even the messy parts. There's plenty of messy parts, right?
But where do you feel like people hold back? They hold back with shame.
Yes.
Yeah.
And guilt and shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these are things that we live with because of, the things we were taught or told or, were directed on when we were younger. Really, a lot of it kind of dials back to when we were kids, and what we've taken from those experiences and moved on. And then what we pass on to our families and things too, or choose not to.
Yeah. And I think for me, when I think about that, I kept my book so tightly shut.
Me too.
I would peek in at the page, look at some of the things, but I wasn't sharing it with anybody. I kept the secrets that were going on, and that can be so stressful and yes, makes for a very guilt-ridden existence.
Yeah.
And it's very true what you were saying when as I moved through that and started talking about things and made decisions and figuring things out and really was okay with the messiness. I mean, it was
messy.
It was messy.
Yeah.
Right? And it's okay.
And that could be why, you waited so long to kind of transition and move on with your life. You knew how messy it was going to be.
Yeah.
And how many people were going to be affected and all that. So.
But when you stop hiding it and you move through it, and start shining and owning your truth and being okay with the decisions that you're making.
And then it's like, what was I so afraid of? I have that strength in me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So, it's huge.
Anyways.
So also, one thing, and again, we're going to get into deep dive on some of these topics in future episodes, but our sexual identity, I think a lot of the time is something that has been put on the back burner. And when we think about what our lives entail, a huge part of us is the fact that we are sexual beings. And I'm not talking about like porno sex kind of stuff. I'm not talking about things that way. I'm just talking more about the fact that it was a shameful thing to be curious when we were younger. It was frankly not something that, I can speak for myself and maybe a lot of you women out there were not really given the avenues to be curious or to ask questions. Yeah. We were just told don't have sex. You're going to go to hell if you have sex.
Right? Or God forbid that you have fantasies or desires or even act on any of that. That was just like not even
it's not even a thing. And then also the fact that sex, when you say sex, everybody just thinks of intercourse.
Yeah.
All they think about is intercourse, but it's like, well, what else is there out there? There's so many other aspects to us as sexual beings that we really didn't entertain, or at least I didn't entertain a lot of when I was younger, that now I'm asking a lot of questions. I'm
definitely
open to the answers. I mean, you guys are going to see an episode that's going to be coming up that is on different types of relationships. And I mean, it was really interesting to listen to when we were recording that. So it's not to say that we're suggesting you try a different lifestyle or anything. We're just saying there are so many different aspects of things out there that most of us have not explored in one capacity or another.
Never too late.
Nope, never too late.
It's okay to be curious, even kinky.
Yeah. Rare. Okay. So, your power, as you women out there are finding your power, it comes from you aligning with your own beliefs and your own desires, not necessarily from approval. And I think we've been in places a lot of the time where we're seeking approval in order to be open about things that we are curious about. And, it's kind of finding the right avenues to be able to ask the right questions. And like Michelle was saying before, it's like we want to have this community put together so people can really ask stuff that they want to be clearly, they clearly want to understand. And they don't really feel like there's a lot of forums to do that, and they don't want to be on Reddit to do it. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm really excited about that, really having the ability for people to just be vulnerable and get their questions answered and be able to empower each other, all of us, empower each other with the knowledge that each of us has. All of us independently, collectively can be pretty powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What about the fact, do you feel like redefinition also can be, as we make the shift from, I know we kind of made mention about the family aspect when you're in midlife and all the activities and working and all of the, involvement in community and everything that we do, it kind of changes. I think I can look back now and see how things get redefined, right? But I think when you're in the midst of it, you're not really looking to redefine, if that makes sense.
You're just looking to survive.
Right? Yeah, you're just
keep your head above water.
So I think as time goes on, or, with us and, talking about some of these things, you can ask yourself some of these questions earlier on, and it doesn't have to, wait and come with time. But looking for a little bit more of your soul that you're leading through these things with. And it doesn't always have to be about strategy, right?
Yeah.
I think it feels better when that starts happening. And we'll go through and have, some episodes about that too, and what that looks like and how to identify.
Yeah. And it could be a variation for some people or very similar, for others. So I think those are going to be really exciting things to discuss as well. When we talk about aging, and again, we're talking midlife, right? So we bring up the term midlife, and what does that really mean? I mean, I guess if we're looking at our age range being, from 0 to 85 or something like that, I guess midlife is in the 40s and your 50s and 60s. And when you think about the differences between 50 years ago, what a 40-year-old was like, and 50-year-old or a 60-year-old was like, and what we're like now, it is very different because our world has definitely evolved, and we are trying to remain as youthful as possible. And I don't mean youthful necessarily in just the way we look, because I think that's a big part of it. I mean, you see that in the industry, huge in the industry, and all the, the paintings and the magazines that are all airbrushed and all that kind of stuff, the perfection that's really nobody's ever going to achieve. Which kills me, because you see our young girls out in the world really using that as their litmus test, Aging isn't something to fight. I think it's something, well, I say that, but then let me step back for a moment. It is something to fight in that we need to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Because as we age, it's like if we don't take care of ourselves, then our bodies are going to let us down. But it's really us letting our body down if you think about it.
Yeah. Well, and it's a lot of the things that we're talking about here: owning your authenticity, true to yourself, exploring your sexuality, pleasure, sensuality, all the things that feel good. When you're not doing that and you're bottling up and you're people pleasing and not taking care of yourself, like you say, then those things do start to show up in our aging, right? In not the most pleasing of ways.
That's right. And believe me, if you haven't had an orgasm, it's aging you.
Oh, yeah.
So we are going to discuss that.
And if you have multiple, because it really is a good stress reliever.
It really is a good stress reliever. Yes, as Michelle said. And ultimately, you guys, it's like the sisterhood. I mean, Michelle and I have a sisterhood. We have very similar, we've grown up in different places to some degree, but very similar looks on life, but different ways of approaching things, really. It's like, her upbringing and my upbringing, although similar, were very different. And, our lifestyles have been different. But it's like, I guess a lot of it is just really respecting each other's past, respecting what each person brings to the table, and really feeling like there's no judgment. And I think that's what, to me, it boils down to, is that I want to, and I know Michelle and I both said this before, is we really want to provide an environment where you genuinely feel like you can go with no judgment and feel comfortable, and get questions answered for things that you want to, or ask questions.
Yeah.
But basically finding your people.
This is the platform for you, ladies. If this is something that you're looking for, or something that sounds appealing, because we will be moving forward and having a community of sisterhood like that. So stay tuned for more on that.
And if this is not your jam and you'd rather, like listen to a podcast on fly fishing or something, more power to you.
Yeah, do it. Do it. If that, but seriously, like if fly fishing does make you happy and bring you joy, again, that's like being true to yourself, but still listen to our podcast, because we're the ones that told you to do that.
See?
Right? Yeah. So it all works. It fits.
Yeah.
But so as you go through the rest of your week, first of all, thank you so much for listening. We're excited to be two spicy midlife women, talking about so many things in regard to what that means to be a spicy midlife woman, how to redefine midlife, a lot of the things we've talked about here in this episode. And moving forward, we're going to take deep dives into so much of this stuff, as well as the community. And, we are going to be out there. We are out there on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Spicy Midlife Women, Instagram, Spicy Midlife Women. Let me just say it again. And if you're ever just like surfing YouTube, Spicy Midlife Women.
And if you want to send us an email, we're at spicymidlifewomen@gmail.com.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
And until next week, thank you so much, ladies. And if there's gentlemen out there, you can definitely learn some stuff too. We would love to have you in our audience as well.
Yeah, if you've happened to trip across Spicy Midlife Women, and
you might learn something about your woman.
Yeah, or maybe thinking, this is something that she could use to spice it up. Just, play us in the car while you're driving somewhere with her. And, what is this?
Oh, my brain just went really naughty. Okay.
Okay.
Surprise.
Until next time, Jules.
Yep. Let's keep it spicy. Okay, ladies. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.